We are ready to continue with our adventures in learning, and we actually had Heather lined up, what was it, almost a year ago, I think, and we got, believe it or not, some bad weather, and we had to cancel, so we are so happy that she is able to join us for our adventures in learning here today. And of course, she is the author of Why Did I Survive? Also a new book out as well, and very, very interesting story to tell. Would you please welcome Heather Sharp.
So thank you for your patience. My recovery, and the Caring Bridge, what a perfect segue. And that was a remarkable story, very good. My recovery is a miracle, and some of you have, and at the prayer breakfast, we had bad weather. And so some of you have heard this story at the prayer breakfast, but maybe not, maybe this is the first time. My recovery is absolutely a miracle. I should not be here. Or at the very least, I should be brain dead. And maybe this is a demonstration. I'll give you my background and tell you what happened, and tell you what I learned from my experience. So if you can see that, that's my family. My husband, Jack, and my sons, Grant and Ryan. And before the accident, I was the breadwinner. I was a pilot for Delta Airlines, and my husband was the Mr. Mom. Now I'm the Mrs. Mom. I flew the C-130 in the Air Force, and the 747 for Northwest Airlines, we did cargo and passengers. And then I flew the A320 for Delta. My first accident was in, so that's 2014, 2008. I was crossing Highway 52. We live like a mile off of Highway 52, and you all know where the stoplight is, the first stoplight. And so I was crossing from the west side to the north, and I had a green light, and I pulled up onto the southbound lane, and an 85-year-old Catholic priest didn't see the red light and T-boned me. And so here's...
Heather, would
Yep.
you like someone to press the button for you?
Yeah,
or-
sure.
Okay. Rod, you're probably better at it.
Oh, so that, when I got T-boned, the ambulance, Brendan Shalit, and maybe Mickey Callister came and saw that and thought I was dead. And Brenda got hold of my pulse and said, "Oh no, she's alive, helicopter." And so the helicopter came and got me, took me to Mayo Clinic. I had a crushed pelvis, kind of like a soda can, a shattered collarbone, and a mild traumatic brain injury. So the FAA wanted me to have a year off, and miraculously, I got better, and I went back flying. So then, Halloween of 2010, a little more than 3 years ago, the second accident happened. I'm only 47 and I've had 2 accidents. And that was, we had the reason we were knocking, that happened, a tree fell on my head. And we have a farm, Jerome Judge's place, if you're familiar with that. We have very large trees, and the horses chew the bark off the trees and kill the trees. And so they're like 40-foot tall dead trees, and my husband was knocking them over with a skid steer because we were worried that a windstorm would come up and knock the trees down. So it was Halloween. He thought, oh, we'll take the kids to trick or treating. And so he put the skid steer away, and this is so typical of me trying to cram too many things in a limited amount of time. I said, oh, come on, we have plenty of time, bring it back out. And so he brought it back out and went to push over a tree, and there was a large branch, and he called the branch later a widowmaker, and it almost was. A large branch at a weird angle, and with the pressure of the skid steer, the bucket, the branch broke off and fell on my head, and then broke over my head.
I didn't know which one.
Okay. So there is a picture of the branch that broke over my head. Again, boop, I fell down. Same helicopter, came to Brenda Prashalik. She thought, are you kidding? Heather again responded, and the same helicopter came and got me, took me to Mayo Clinic. This time, I was in ICU in an induced coma for 8 days. They removed my skull so they could do brain surgery. I had bleeding on the brain, and so right away, they put me in surgery. I had 12 fractures in my back. And so here I think I'm starting to wake up. And I had a trach tube and a ventilator tube and on and on. And Joy, my sister-in-law, used Caring Bridge, which, for all the same reasons that you said, was quite remarkable. So I had spent 32 days in the hospital. I had a collapsed lung, nerve damage. I lost a portion of hearing in my left ear, which is quite a miracle because if you lose hearing, it's not likely that you'll get it back. So I lost 40% hearing. I'm back now to only losing 10% hearing. I've never heard of that. I had a tremor in my right hand. Right afterwards was pretty bad, really bad. They would come, the therapist would come with a word search puzzle and say, okay, Heather, see if you can circle apostrophe. Are you kidding? No. She goes, okay, how about cat? No. How about circle all the A's? Not so much. And she would come with change, and she said, so, okay, I want to buy a candy bar. So how much change will I need to buy a candy bar? Couldn't tell you. How much change do I have in my hand? No idea. Couldn't tell you. So I had double vision after the tree fell on my head, and so I had to wear a eye patch for probably, I think, 3 months until everything got aligned again. My kids made some artwork, and Ryan, let me see what the next one is. Ryan made artwork that said, this says, no more helicopter emergencies. And Grant is very, very smart. I'll probably cry when I say this. Everyone has good times and bad times. You just have to go with the flow and know that God will take care of you. What a smart kid. I'm going to stop doing this in a second. This is the last slide. This is a picture of what I call my turtle shell. I wore it for 4 months to stabilize my neck and back. And then after I took it off, it took a while for my head to get muscle tone and to be able to move around. And when I put my head forward, my spinal cord would touch the vertebrae, and I'd get an electric shock in my extremities. And so I told Mayo Clinic, and they said, oh, we know what to do. We will do surgery, take a piece of bone from your hip, go through the front and fuse your neck. No, thank you, no. Thankfully, we didn't have to do that. So, now we're done with it. So I'm telling you this to let you know, if you saw me today, you would never believe that that occurred. Because it is absolutely a miracle. I'm telling you this to let you know how really bad it was. The doctors at Mayo saw the reports, they read the x-rays, they knew factually what they were dealing with. And based on that, and based on the hundreds of cases they've seen, they would forecast my recovery somewhere on the bell-shaped curve. But the two things they couldn't figure, two things they didn't know how would affect my recovery was attitude and faith. If they were good, then I'd be over here on the bell-shaped curve. If they were bad, maybe not so good. I went back a little while ago, and the doctor said, your recovery is so far off the charts. You are so far, nobody can believe it. And fortunately, Mayo is a faith-based hospital, and they know that this is an answer to prayer. And what you said with the Caring Bridge, and let me tell you, the first time, it's good to be hit by the Catholic Church because you have tons and tons of people praying for you that you don't even know. And with Caring Bridge, it opens up this unbelievable attitude, unbelievable group of people. And it was after that that I had an epiphany that it's not about the horizontal. It's not about if you know the person that you're praying for. Like in the church bulletin, you don't need to know that person personally. Let's say that Marion is having surgery in California on a tumor, and it wouldn't happen with Caring Bridge, the facts would get correct. But let's say through email or whatever, Bob is praying for Miriam in Tennessee with cancer. Well, Bob has the facts wrong, but that's okay. But God knows who Marion is, and God will bless Marion, but he will also bless Bob, because Bob has acknowledged that God is the most powerful. 2-Minute Church, so I go to this church. 2-Minute Church are really nice. And they ask me all the time, they go, how you doing? Are you 100%? I go, not quite 100% yet. And I think, and they go, okay, we're praying for 100%. I think, well, that's really nice. And you can, but I'm very grateful for how far I've come. But then the more I think about it, I think, you know what? Why not pray for 100%? God's not going to look and say, oh no, Heather, no way. You have maxed out. I'm not giving you another blessing because you have maxed out your ability, or your, it's not going to happen. But if I pray, or if my family prays for me, why not? God can do miracles. That addresses one part of my recovery. The other part that Mayo couldn't quantify was my attitude. And your attitude is extremely important. My uncle was a world champion, and he called it heart. He said no matter what they were doing, golf, ping pong, Olympics, he could guess the person that would succeed. It wasn't always the person with the most skill, it was the person with the most heart. The definition of heart is hard to explain. It's a desire or a drive. They won't quit. Having heart means you'll keep going when other people will stop. All they think about is getting better. I guess it's similar to a hunger, a burning in your belly that you can't put out. They have resolution and conviction. Nobody is going to get them down. You have seen people with heart. firemen have it, people in the military have it, and some everyday people, the person that you work out with, or the checker at the grocery stand. And earlier I said all they think about is getting better. So getting better used to mean whatever was your sport. Now, getting better, in my case, or in lots of cases, means getting better. I had heart when I wanted to be a female pilot. I just shifted and used that same drive to get to this. Because of speaking in the books that I've written, people contact me, and a guy with terminal cancer, I talked to him, and at the time, he had a bad attitude, really bad attitude. And there's no, in my opinion, there's no sugarcoating it. There's no, oh, you know, we're all behind you, you'll beat this thing. No, call a spade, call it what it is. And so I talked to him, I said, well, this sucks. And he goes, yeah, it does. I go, what did you do before all this chemo and all this baloney that you had to deal with? And it took him a long time to think about it. He goes, well, I was an Eagle Scout. I go, you're an Eagle Scout? That is terrific. I bet that was hard. He goes, that was really hard. I said, so you have it in you. It's been a long time. Find it, dust it off, and apply it. This time the bullseye isn't Eagle Scout. This time the bullseye is cancer. And apply that same skill after this. And he later died. But that was critical, that shift. The cancer might have taken his body, but it did not take his heart. He was in control. People often say when they're confronted with a tragedy or trauma, they say the timing of this could not be worse. As if there's a good time for a trauma. As if you'd say, oh yeah, you know, I have time for a car accident. You know what, the people at work don't really need me. Yeah, no problem. No, nobody would say yes to this. And now you have to deal with it. But it, what we forget, is it has to deal with you.
Are you going to use this anymore?
In my, I call it the enemy. The enemy will think, oh my gosh, this girl is pushing back. I thought this was going to be easy. I mean, you know what? You should have picked somebody easier. You should have picked a wimp. I'm not a wimp. And so that would be the same message that I give to anybody that's dealing with a crisis. And some enemies are tough. Cancer or a terminal illness is going to stick around, and it's going to stick around until it wins. You won't win every battle. You will have bad days. The disease or traumatic illness, the illness or traumatic event might get points physically, but you are in control of your attitude. I wrote so the book called Why Did I Survive is the nonfiction version of a lot of this stuff. And then I wrote a fiction book, which is called I Have a Lot to Say. And Speedy, the horse, is the narrator. And it's many things like exactly this, how to overcome adversity. And Speedy has a lot to say if you know how to listen. Of course, he can't talk because he's a horse, but he can hear people's thoughts. And so now I'll try to play the trailer.
so smart. I have a lot to say if you know how to listen. I started out as a rope horse, but that didn't go so well. I got sold and I became a barrel horse, and that was fun. And then I saw a terrible accident happen. I got sold again, and Sarah and I barrel raced. I learned all about competition endurance. People talk to themselves in their heads. It matters what they think about. I don't think they know that I can hear them, and God can hear them too. Even if they don't believe God is listening, what they think about will come true. They will manifest what they think about. I went to the National High School Rodeo Finals. There, I got to watch a trick rider do a comedy act. It was great. And that guy knew that the horse was a partner. I understand now why horses and bulls buck. It's not what most people think. When Sarah went off to college, I became a therapy horse. And that's when the magic really started to happen. There was this funny story about when my friend Rocket couldn't stand to be left alone. He opened that gate on his own. That guy is a menace. We went on trail rides and camping. One story was hysterical. Then there was the time that Lucky almost got killed. And there was the dreaded porta potty incident. That was a riot. You won't laugh the whole time. There'll be tears. But they're happy tears. I have a pretty high opinion of myself. I thought it was all about me. But then I realized I was just a dude. Part of God's plan.
So thankfully, that's been reviewed and well received. And so that's the fiction version of a lot of things. And it talks about the importance of living in the moment and positive thinking, how that affects your life. The story moves along through different owners of Speedy. But it says how to handle obstacles, disasters, disability. And then Speedy sees the similarity in how he thinks and how people with dementia or brain injury or autism, any brain-related Down syndrome, any brain-related incident, that he sees that he lives in the moment. And I won't call them normal people, because in God's eyes, everybody is normal. But let's call them traditional thinkers. And my dad has dementia. And my mom grieves for the person that he used to be. But when you're in, let me tell you, when you're in the middle of the situation, you're not worried about who you used to be. I'm not thinking about, I used to fly 747s and land in Hong Kong. I'm thinking about today. And I give talks, and a person asked me, what causes you frustration? And I said, and this kind of lent itself to the book, I said, you know, I get frustrated when I don't live in today. When I think about the past or when I think about the future, I get frustrated. I miss the person that I used to be. I was a sharp cookie. And I had all these things that my life was on a path, I thought. I get frustrated if I live in the future because I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that will be. And I have all these plans, and I think, well, if I get, and especially if I try to attach a date of when I think I should go back flying, it doesn't work. But if I live in today, I'm pretty happy. I'm talking to you. My kid said something funny this morning, and I laughed. If I live in today, things look pretty good. And so afterwards, she came up and talked to me and said, you know, I did not experience a traumatic event, but what you said applies to my life. When I look at the past, I used to be skinny. I think that I was gonna live in New York and set the world on fire. Instead, I came back, married my high school sweetheart, and live in Rochester, Minnesota. And she goes, I miss the person that I thought I was gonna be. If I live in the future, I'm paralyzed by worry. I won't let my daughter drive anywhere because I think of what might happen. I drive my family nuts because I hold on so tight to stuff. Well, none of us are guaranteed a future. And she said, but when I think about today, I'm grateful for the small things. When I drove here, my favorite song was playing on the radio. You know, I had a really good cup of coffee. So that was very meaningful. So here is my advice. Live in the moment, realize that your attitude is very important. We all hope that you die at 110 years old, pain-free, in your sleep. But we know, as evidenced by me, that the end can come like that. And so, none of these accidents I could see coming. So my advice is that you better get right with God right now. Not on Sunday, because you may not die on Sunday. Get right with God right now and know where you're going. Thanks very much. Yeah.
I have your book. Why don't you tell our guests here, they were going to check your weight, but it wasn't the weight that was changed, it was your height.
Oh, yeah. So, thank you. I went to Mayo Clinic after like a year or so, and everything was calmed down. And I said to the nurse, she did my height and weight, and I said, oh, that's interesting. So how tall am I now? And she thought, probably the same height you were 2 years ago or last year? No, not me. I shrunk an inch.
From having a branch fall out of your
From having a branch fall out of my head. And we have time. The first accident was pretty funny. Because often when I'm on a trip, I don't know, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I don't know what city I'm in. And I try to think about it, and so then I find the phone, I go, oh, Portland, okay, yeah, I remember. So then, you know how you are when you wake up. So the first accident, the car accident, happened at 10 in the morning. And whoop, I was out. So off to Mayo Clinic I go. I woke up at 10 at night. Well, that's what time the local news comes on. And my husband had come in, he was waiting for me to wake up. I wasn't stirring. And so he went out and talked to the nurses, and they said, okay, when she wakes up, she might be altered. She may not know who you are. She may be angry. So your job, Jack, is to keep her calm and don't provoke her. And so they gave him a briefing on what he could expect. Well, while he was out of the room, I woke up and then, I wonder where I am. Because I thought I was on a trip. And so I thought, oh, I'll look for the phone. Well, I looked around. There was no address on the phone. I thought, oh, well, I found the clicker. And I thought, what a cheap hotel room. I know we're in bankruptcy, but this is ridiculous, no carpeting. And so I found the clicker and I turned on the TV. Well, underneath the TV, in the doorway, Jack came in. And I thought, what the heck? Why are you here miles away from home? And so I was confused by that. And so we started to get that straightened out. I said, why are you here? What happened? He goes, Heather, you were in an accident. Oh my gosh, I was in an accident? Were the kids with me? He goes, no, you were all by yourself. The kids are fine. They're with your aunt. What's her name? Sylvia? He goes, yeah. And I took the dog, what's her name? The dog. Hannah. He thought, oh, she's fine, there's no problem. Her memory is great. And so then he directed me off topic. We talked about mundane things to keep me calm. Well, then the news came on the TV, and Highway 52, the channel, whatever it is, 9 in Rochester, their van was going by at the same time. They got the film out. And so the accident was on the TV. And I looked up, I go, oh my gosh, I know exactly where that is. I hope those people are okay. He goes, Heather, that was your accident. I go, oh my gosh, were the kids with me? And so my long-term memory was great, my short-term memory. So that was pretty powerful. Yeah.
I think what was neat that I got out of your book is that you make it understandable for the rest of us how to work with people who've had an brain injury.
Thank you.
How to value and just be patient and not get upset ourselves that it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Just, okay.
Right. And with dementia or brain injury or autism or Down syndrome, that we, the traditional thinker, feel bad for that person. My husband felt bad for what he thought was unfair. And for the person in the middle of it, we don't feel bad. And in the back of the book, the fiction book, I have a lot to say. You read through it, and the setting is the arena and horses, but in the questions in the back, it's like, now that you've read this, would God have the same view that the horse does? He doesn't care if your makeup's done. He doesn't care if you're in a wheelchair. And so also, I have a lot to say, the horse would have a lot to say, but so does God if you tune in. And the person with dementia or brain injury or autism can't speak to you, but they're communicating with somebody. And they're not worried about, the crisis in Ukraine or North Korea with nuclear missiles. And so who should we feel is luckier? They're communicating with God, and really, I kind of envy them. Yeah.
How do you think this has all affected your sons and the young men they are becoming?
Right.
That they would have become if they hadn't experienced?
Right. And afterwards, 2 years post-accident, when I was getting better, I thought, oh my gosh. My one son was standing right next to me when the tree fell on my head, and the other one called 911. So I thought, oh my gosh, what if they are suffering from post-traumatic stress and we're not tuned into this? And so we took them to the same psychologist that worked with me. And so Ryan was 8 and Grant was 11. And so the psychologist asked Ryan, he goes, so how is your mom different? What do you notice? He goes, well, she goes boom a lot faster. Is it possible that we could get a longer fuse because I didn't know? And then he asked Grant something, and then afterwards he said, they're fine. They're adjusting to this, just like you would hope that kids would. And I would say, I'll probably cry again, that this has made them appreciate the present moment. And it's brought them closer to God because they realize that He does have a hand. So it was, and like everything, it's terrible at the time it happens, but later on, and that's a point too. I don't think that God makes anything happen. I don't think He has plans written in stone. I don't think He made Typhoon Haiyan happen because those people needed to learn a lesson or we needed to get closer. I don't think He made the tree fall on my head because I was a bad person. I think stuff just happens. And he looks down and said, ooh, nasty. And it's what you do with it. It's not God's fault. How you relate to God, I think is critically important, and I think my kids know that. Yeah.
I think ever since I met your children, I've always thought, oh my gosh, they are truly amazing kids, Ryan and Grant. And they're so cool. It's unbelievable. But truly, after all of this, I mean, I really think there again, when you talk about what God's given us, God gave them the greatest mom. She's amazing. Jack's so great. You know, there's a reason why you have these unique, amazing, smart children, and
Thanks.
they're gonna go far.
Thanks. And that's something that I have come to grips with. Like, I had this whole plan. I was going off to become a pilot, and I had this whole thing mapped out, and God said, okay, Heather, that's nice, but I want you to go over here. And so it's not my job to say, but I like that. I want to do that. It's to say, okay, so maybe these things that happened, I can use these, this is what I learned, and share them with other people. And you can benefit and not have a tree fall on your head.
I was going to say the same thing about your boys. They are two of the nicest boys I've ever met. And when Grant was acting like that one Sunday, and he came all the way around the pews and all the way down, and I was sitting here and he said, peace be with you.
Oh.
I mean, he went out of his way. Usually you say that's right, you know, where you are and stuff, but he walked all the way around and it was.
Oh.
It's funny because they're the kids, Patsy, you'd say this too, that they are the kind of kids that, like, one of my nephews, I look at him and go, wonder what they're gonna be. I can't wait to see what they are when they grow up. It'd be so fun.
Anyway, I had excuse me, but you talked about this turtle thing.
Yep.
Well, it's what I had, but I had to work for 6 months, but it kind of used it for real.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm thinking of your husband now. Does he have a wife that's a different wife than what she was before? Or a white person? Or that's the girl that he
I know.
married?
Oh, I
I
wish
know.
he was here to answer.
Yeah. No, he became, oh, can I get another one? I'd say now I'm getting back to close to what I used to be. But, so I'm almost 3.5 years post-accident, and during the time, probably about 2.5 years, up to 2.5 years, I was pretty flat, and I didn't have any, like I think I'm pretty funny, but I didn't have any zest at all. And he was great, and the kids were great. And I would not have recovered as well without their support and without all the prayers. So I'm getting back, but I'm not the same person. And I appreciate all the prayers.